What is a master copy? A master copy is a replica of a painting of a master artist, made using the same or different art mediums. We intend in this project to make this master copy of the Milkmaid painting by following the academic approach. If we look at the Milkmaid painting by Vermeer, we are taken by its brilliant colors. But behind those colors are other layers that were done as basis for this final work. We need to analyze the painting and dissect the work into several stages in order to copy it perfectly. Take a look at the painting without the colors. What do you notice here? You are now seeing only the values of the colors of the painting. You can feel more confident now that you are technically dealing with the shapes and values, which are layers beneath color. Now look at those red lines we made. These lines represent what we call the shadow shapes and block of the visual objects. Copying these lines is essential in the start of any academic work, as they act as the base structure that we will build the painting upon. This is the result that we need to make in the blocking stage. It looks easy enough, but as we will see, it will require some attention and effort, but it will be fun as well. As we mentioned in the last video, we will be working with the actual size of the painting, which is 41 by 45 centimeters. We have prepared a printout of the painting on the left, side by side with our paper, which will serve as our reference. We will take the exact measurements using compass, calipers, and pantograph tools. As you see, we are working on a sheet of paper and a graphite pencil, because this sketch will be transferred on the canvas once we finish it. As you notice, we have placed a plumb line on the printed painting to divide it into two halves, and we drew a line on our sheet of paper on the same location. This will help us to gather the coordinates of the points of the block. So, what I am actually doing is I am holding my compass, opening it to the distance between the top of the reference to the point I want to copy, then marking it on the paper. I do this for several points, then I go for gathering the horizontal distances to these points from the plumb line. So in this manner, I gather the coordinates of the points of the outer shapes or blocks. Relying on the vertical measurements we made on the middle line, we start to make the horizontal measurements and mark them on our paper. The first stage in this project is to achieve the block, which is a basic and simple geometrical shape. In this painting, we have several blocks we need to draw. We need in the beginning to be as basic as possible. We don't want to dive into the details because we need to visualize the whole picture in an accurate manner. This is why we need to look at what we see as proportions and not finished visuals with colors and textures and details. The modeling, which is adding depth and color and details to the work, comes in the later stages. So here we have successfully made a decent right side of the block of the maid's figure, and we need to continue doing the rest of the block and the other aspects of the painting in the same manner. Dividing the picture into two halves makes it more convenient to the eye to look at it as a two-dimensional view instead of a three-dimensional. We only focus on the outer shapes of the scene. See, one of the main reasons that cause problems in the proportions in the visual work is that we don't look at what we see as a two-dimensional view, because it isn't. But if we freeze our angle of sight throughout the process of drawing, which can be a bit challenging, then we can manage to get the proportions right for a decent extent. This is what sight size technique is all about. In order to understand shadow shapes, we must look at the visual work as a black and white version. And that could be done with the help of photo editing software. The dark shapes are called shadow shapes, and just like the block, we need to copy them using the same methodology. We are using the help of tracing paper because this is how it's done in academic schools for beginners. Surprised? This is okay because we want to demonstrate the way to you so you can practice as an academic artist. There are times where you can get help using some tools. Now we can clearly see what our objective is with this traced shadow shapes sheet put alongside our drawing. Very basic shapes just like the block. We are introduced here to a new measuring tool called the pantograph. It is basically a set of rulers with several pivoting points and a pencil bit on one of those pivot points. The great thing about the pantograph is that you can customize it for your need. I have adjusted it in this fashion with the distance between the pivot and the pencil to be equivalent to the painting's width. This is how I will copy the proportions right. This is a very important stage. We have to reach a certain level of resemblance and perfection in the drawing that we will eventually transfer to the canvas. We will try to reach a level of smoothness and give it a more three-dimensional look. Problem: how do we recognize the midtones looking at the color version of the painting? The midtones are also shapes. We notice the midtone in the shoulder area, which we've done right here. This is the tone that is lighter than the shadow shapes and darker than the light areas. I have prepared the wooden frame earlier to match the Milkmaid painting's proportions. Now all we have to do is stretch the canvas paper on the frame. This is the sketch after transferring it to the canvas. As you notice, we have included the block, the shadow shapes, and some of the middle tones. Now we are ready for painting. Let's see how the different values are scattered along the painting. Look at the range of values on the right from 1 to 5 and follow the numbers in the picture to understand what each area's actual value is. The grayscale version of the painting consists of several color values without the chromas, which are the color aspects of the painting, also called monochromatic. This differs it from the polychromatic version, which has color ranges and their respective color values. This is what we will cover in the next and last episode of this series. We will consider 5 color values ranging from deep gray to light gray. Looking at the grayscale version printout, we can notice how soft the ranging of the values, and we can analyze these values without the distraction of the color. Problem: how do we create the gray values of the painting so that we maintain a consistent range of values and keep the work clean? Answer: we have to prepare the palette earlier and not to mix while working. Also, we have to make them with the adequate quantities that we need. So we have reached the end of this episode. If you have watched it to the end, then I thank you very much for your patience and hope you have benefited from it. We have made the grayscale version successfully using the academic approach, and next we will add the colors to it. See you soon.